everyone, this is Keith Scott from out in Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bullwinkle J. Moose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kenny and Andy McPhee.
Yeah, one of my fondest memories in London during the trip was we were in a taxi tour
Mhm.
and we were driving past Buckingham Palace and I learned there that the king and or the queens of the past, the kings and queens never lived there personally. They lived somewhere else that's not disclosed. And
Yeah.
but I just remember turning the curve to the palace and I looked to my left and standing above some buildings along with some trees was Big Ben.
Oh, yes.
And
I
it
know,
was
it's huge.
not
Yeah.
only is it huge and tall, but the fact that it was standing above buildings and trees, it's like, man, that looks smaller on pictures.
Oh, it really does. And you get there and you're like, whoa. And when you hear the bells, you're like, wow, that's actually, it's really loud. And you can hear it
It's
almost
really
there.
it is loud. I actually recorded just in time some footage of when it was like da 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 da, before the
Yeah,
major
cool.
chime, but I still got to
Yeah.
hear it ring during the quarter hour.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Did you see them changing the guard in at Buckingham Palace?
Yep, I
That's
saw that. And
very special. When you watch that for the first time, you get like goosebumps. It's like, oh wow, such a different I think nowhere in the world is like that. I mean, maybe Denmark because they have
Mhm.
royalty there, but I've never seen that anywhere else in the world. So
Yeah. And then when
interesting.
we got into Scotland, I visited Wallace Monument and Stirling
Oh,
Castle and all the whole 9 yards and got to
yeah.
win a throw rug owned by J.M. Barrie in an auction.
Oh, that's cool.
The funniest
Did you win
moment
it?
what was that?
Did you win the rug?
I did. Yep.
Oh my god! I thought you said you were in the right. You actually won the rug. That's great. Well
Yeah,
done.
and it was actually an easy win. I just bid
Oh,
30 pounds on it, which
yeah.
was the minimum that they were calling for, and I won.
That's bizarre. Well done. That's great. I like
Yeah,
winning.
obviously I'm not going to use the rug. I'm going to display it somehow.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Otherwise, it would just get ruined. But oh, that's really cool. Well done.
Yeah. And then the funniest moment, if I had to pick during the trip, was we took a taxi tour in Scotland. We were going up north and we crossed over a bridge over a very large river. And the
Mm.
tour guide told us that the bridge we were on had collapsed in 1969, I think it was. And when he
Oh,
mentioned it, I was like, what's it with you people here and all these falling bridges?
yeah. London Bridge is falling down.
Yep. And it
So
took
also, why are you telling me while we're on the bridge that it broke down? That's not going to make me feel any safer. Like, I remember once I was traveling, I was actually traveling from Australia and I went to Paris and I was on like a bus to go to Paris and they put Taken on the bus. And it's all about like taking young women. I was only about 18 as well, taking 18-year-old women in France. And I was like, I don't want to go to France anymore. I was like, I was like, I don't want to go. I was like, what? Like, that was the silliest thing to put on before we were entering Paris, but I was fine. I was all good.
Yeah,
But
that's just not a good first impression, I would say.
no, it's a good film, though. Very good film. But I was like,
Yeah.
I'm scared now. It's
Yeah,
funny.
there's always cringy moments when you're in travel.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of my favorite things to do, though. I think those experiences that you get when you're traveling are so, I don't know, fulfilling.
Priceless.
Yeah, like you wouldn't get that if you stay at home. I don't know.
Yeah. The
Some
guy
people
that
think,
I the guy that I gave the London Bridge joke to, though, he was a good
yeah,
sport about it. It took him a
yeah,
minute to get it, but he laughed and then he responded with his own quirk. He was like, what he said to me was, "Yeah, it's a wonder why the world allows us to make bridges these days."
that's good. Yeah. Oh, hopefully. No, they're usually pretty good. Yeah, it's just like people in London when like if you're on the tube or something, anyone wearing a suit, don't approach them. It's not worth it. They're just gonna yell at you or something. Just stay away. That's my advice
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you
Very
seen
true.
any of Andy's films?
I really want to see Planet of the Apes. I actually
Good.
saw Elvis with his son in it the other day, which was fantastic. Loved it.
I
Um,
look up to Cody. That was a great role of his.
oh
He's
yeah,
one of my heroes.
yeah, definitely. And well, the thing is it's interesting. When I did the workshop with Andy, he spoke about how he was doing the mocap because I think he just got the role for Planet of the Apes, I think, because he said he got it on his birthday. I think it was just after he got the role. And he was talking about all the mocap stuff. And I was like, oh, I'd really love to do that. There's a girl that I know, and she does all the mocap stuff. And it's not very big in Adelaide or in Australia, really. It's a lot bigger in the US and the UK at the moment. It's kind of like a thriving industry here. It's not very big in Adelaide, though. So there's only a few people that do it. And one of them is a girl that I know. She's called Brittany Galesh, and she is awesome. And she does all the mocap stuff. And I was like, Brittany, get me in on this mocap stuff. Like, I want to have a go. So I've done a little bit of training since then because, I mean, as a dancer, using my body was a form of storytelling. So I think that was like a natural next step going into that. And then from there, I also decided to do a lot of stunt work as well. So I'm actually training to be a stunt performer at the moment. Fingers
Whoa.
crossed. Next year, it will be a thing. But yeah, I'm excited, but also scared.
Yeah, those stunts can be scary, but you never know. You could go on
Yeah.
to be like Richard Norton, and you could
Yeah.
have like his status of being a stuntman. He's an
Yeah.
icon as well.
Well, as a kid, I always used to watch like Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones was like, that's probably one of my favorite films, actually. Truman Show and Indiana Jones. I reckon they tie. They're very different, but I like them both. But I'd watch Indiana Jones. I'd be like, oh yeah, like I want to do all this stuff. And then it was kind of a very similar thing. I saw it and I was like, I'd love to do that, but I don't know how to do it. And then I had a few friends, like I met my friend Daisy, who is actually a stunt performer, and then she introduced me to doing that. So then I took up martial arts, and I've done all these things now. And I think and I'm like, it's probably about time. Like I've been umming and ahhing for a few years, and I had an injury and things like that. But now I'm better. I'm like, I might as well just go for it. What do I have to lose? So yeah,
Yeah.
so
I'm glad you brought up Indiana Jones. That's one of my favorite movie franchises.
yeah, absolutely. Did you like the last one
I
that
thought
they
the
did?
last one was good. I thought it was a
Mm,
good way to end the franchise. I mean, I heard
yeah,
it didn't perform well, but I understood how it ended because when Indiana went up against the Soviet Union in the previous one,
yeah,
when Indiana Jones 5 is announced, you're like, what more could he experience when he's getting old? And you're like,
yeah,
maybe the chances are neo-Nazism or time travel. That's the only thing you can think of. And that proved to have been the truth. That's what the
yeah. Because I
movie
was
was
like, they did
about.
have time travel in it for sure. And it's
The
so
only
interesting that sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say in that Indiana Jones one, my friend Brittany did some mocap for it, which was really
Whoa.
cool. Yeah, she did. I can't remember exactly what scene, but she was doing. She was like cheering or something, and she did that in Adelaide. So the work is there. You just need to know how to get it. So that's my goal for next year: the stunt stuff, the mocap stuff. Try and get into those avenues because it's so interesting. I
Yeah.
love learning about it.
Yeah, and this is my perspective of the film if you want to hear it.
Yes, go go go.
I think overall it was a good story, but there
Mm.
were some things that I wish they would have included in the movie.
Mm.
For one, I think they could have done a better job, in my opinion, of explaining how the bad guy, Mads Mikkelsen, Jurgen Voller, how he
Mm.
survived getting his face smacked by the water tower when he was on the train fighting Jones.
Yeah.
Because, you're like, that train was probably going at least 50 to 60 miles per hour. How did you escape that without like facial damage or something? Because when
That's really
Jurgen Voller appears later in the movie, he looks pretty fine, like nothing had hurt him. Maybe he got a
yeah.
concussion, but you're just like, I think it would have been better if they animated Mads Mikkelsen so that it looked like his face was heavily scarred or possibly even half torn
Yeah.
off. And that would have given him a more personal reason to go after Jones and get the
Yeah, like
dial.
vengeance. Yeah, yeah, because he's like, look at what you did. Yeah, yeah, I agree. No, that's an interesting point. I wonder if maybe they did that so that because he did come back, perhaps they thought that the audience wouldn't recognize him if they changed his appearance too much. I'm not sure. But that's
Yeah.
that's an interesting point for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and aside from that, the other thing I wish they would have done was explain how Indiana Jones gets cleared of wrongdoing because if you remember earlier in the movie,
Yeah,
he
he's
gets
in.
framed for murder. And the thing is, basically this Indiana Jones movie, from my perspective, was more about his goddaughter,
Yeah, I agree.
and
Yeah.
about her growth. Indiana Jones was there just because he had to be there. But basically, in previous movies, when he was sent on a mission, either voluntarily or involuntarily, and this one, he was not, it was another involuntary mission, but it
Yeah.
wasn't for the
His
intent of
sake.
time
Yeah, yeah,
travel. This was a
yeah.
situation, in my opinion, where his goddaughter had caused him to be framed for murder and caused a whole mess. That
Yeah.
wasn't
He's
helped by
trying to
Jurgen. Yeah, that wasn't helped by Jurgen and his henchmen. And so
mm,
Indiana Jones was basically by her side in the movie, basically saying, "You're not going anywhere out of my sight until you clean up this mess that you caused, which is me getting framed for murder, and you're not going anywhere until my name is cleared." You know what I mean?
yeah, so it was kind of like instead of yeah, it was a different path for him to go down in that film. Definitely.
Yeah. And so, but you can
Yeah.
relate to him in that, because he's gone through so much that he's not going to allow himself to be framed for something he didn't commit.
Yeah. And because he's done a lot of like weird things in the past. It's that injustice, I think, that he's like, hang on a second, no. Like I might have done bad things in the past, but I didn't do this, so you're gonna clean it up, you know?
Exactly.
For sure.
And so what I'm getting at is even though that happens and they succeed, they don't explain at the end how he got cleared. The only thing they
Yeah.
show is the reconciliation with Marion. And so when you leave the theater, you're like, did his name get cleared?
Yeah, or is
Did
he
they
going to jail? Yeah.
is he going to
So true.
jail? Did the prosecutors drop the charges? Did his goddaughter speak
Mm.
for him? You're just wondering.
Or is that the reason we're wondering? Is that why they're gonna make another film?
It
Potentially.
could be.
Mm.
You might remember, but in the previous movie, they were going to have Mutt Williams, Shia LaBeouf potentially take
Yes.
over the role. But
Yes.
but Mutt Williams, wasn't a popular character in that movie for whatever reason. And
I
then,
find that really hard. I loved his character. I was like, yes, he's gonna be like the next Indiana Jones. I love the character. Um,
yeah, and
so
I
that's
agree with
interesting.
you. I
Yeah.
agree with you. He was a good character, but for some reason the world didn't accept him. And then his actor, from what I read, got into some controversy. And so it does make sense that when they finally went forward with the film, that they decided in the end that Mutt was going to die in the Vietnam War,
Yeah. Yeah.
just because they needed someone
Shame.
else. Yeah.
Yeah. What a shame. These things happen though. I think that's the thing as well. Like, I've also, when you were asking things I've overcome, I think the fear of upsetting people is also
Mhm.
a very big thing. And I haven't got past that yet, but I don't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing because as an example of that with Shia LaBeouf, I don't know what actually happened in that scenario, but
I don't
you
either.
know, you can speak out and say something and people don't agree with it, and then it can not blacklist you, but I mean, it potentially could, but it can put you in a light where people go, actually, we don't want that. We're going to go for this instead. So, not that I
Yeah.
say anything crazy about politics or anything, but I'm always very conscious of that,
Mhm.
even at my level, to make sure that I'm not upsetting anybody. And it is quite hard because when I put things out on social media and things like that, I really, really think about what I'm putting out there. I don't know if I'm overthinking a little bit too much. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah,
I
I
probably
can't blame
should be
you.
having more fun. Pardon?
I can't blame you. I've
Yeah.
always been open. I don't know. I think you may have read this or heard about this about me before, but I used to be a cyberbully 10 years ago on
Oh,
social media. And it broke a lot of relationships back then, and I
mm,
and I faced that period of, people avoiding me. And, I learned a lot from that, which is, and I keep mentioning this and warning this to people, social media makes it very easy for people to do and say things that they would never say or do if they were
Oh,
facing the
absolutely.
person,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely.
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith Scott from Sydney, Australia saying so long, and I'm smarter than the average bear. Gee.